Welcome back, I'm Kim Bailey and this is Floral Art Online. Today I'm going to share with you a couple of things you can do with tortured willow, and it's exciting for me to be using tortured willow because for the most part in this country I can't use it in competitions because it's a declared weed. So I've got a competition in a couple of weeks where we are allowed to use it, so I'm taking that opportunity and I'm going to use it to its full extent. What we're going to look at today is how you twist it and whether you've got long strands of willow or whether you're doing it on the branches as I will be doing. It's an easy method to adjust a bit of plant material. You could obviously also adapt it to making wreaths or wreath bases. Exactly the same technique that you would use. Once you've done it and it dries, you can use it all sorts of ways and for as long as you want to use it. So we'll do the quick technique first of all, and then I'll show you another way that you can make the structure appealing and change the focus of how it looks just simply by one very simple technique. So let's get started. So I'm going to stand off to one side so you can actually see what I'm doing. So this is the branch that I picked, and what I've done, as you can see, is just twisted the ends of the branches around to make little circles, which I'm going to use as part of the structure, and I'll show you in another video what I do with it, what the class title is. I'm not going to tell you what the class title is to start with, but this is how I'm adjusting this particular branch of willow. And you'll see with this one in particular that it comes from one branch, and I've done two individual ones, but the rest of it I've brought together because I want that line to continue through for the finished design. So you need to have a bit of an idea of what you want the finished design to look like before you start to twist and turn, or you can just adjust your design for how it works. Now I did these probably 2 days ago. It has been very hot here. I've just left them outside to dry out as quickly as they can because I need it in about 2 weeks time, but I still want it to be, as you can see, reasonably pliable so that if I change my mind and want it a different way, that I've still got the opportunity whilst it's green and not too dried out to do that. So how do we do it? Really simple. And just as I change hands and get my next branch, I forgot to do it in the intro, but I just want to highlight my wonderful top that was given to me by one of my students at the end of last year. So shout out to Cheryl. It's being used. I love it. It's the right colours for me, as you know. So there we go. It's famous now on a video for all time. So here we have our tortured willow branch, and this is a particularly good one to be twisting into the circular shapes, the wreath shapes. Still quite pliable, as you can feel, but some of it's drying out. So what I'll do first of all is remove all of the tiny branches that I don't want to incorporate. So they're the ones that are only just about that size. And then I'll have another look at the shape of it and work out how I'm going to do the twisting. Now I have also, I forgot to mention, I have also stripped the leaves off it, and I've left some of them because I was doing it very quickly, but when it's partially dry, it's quite straightforward to do just by running your finger along it, and the leaves will come off. And as these ones that I've left dry, they'll fall off anyway, so it won't be an issue. So I think, you know, as I twist them, I might feel like I want to move some of the others out of the way. So it's basically a matter of bringing together all of the ones that you want to join together. Make your initial circle and make it small to start with, and then just winding the rest of your little branches around it till it holds itself. You can use pegs, the pegs that you get for Christmas cards these days, little tiny ones, or hair clips, just to hold it in place if you're worried about it slipping out. But I guess my hands are conditioned now to know how tight I need to do it. And so you can obviously just do the single, doesn't have to be bringing the branches together. And this one, we might bring these. So what I'm doing is not bringing this one in. I had thought to bring that one in, but it'll mean that I have to have the circle too low down, and I want to have varied heights on this, because remember the branch, I could either use the branch horizontally like that, or I might want to do it this way, so, or at some sort of an angle. But I'm more inclined at the moment to do it, to place it horizontally in the design, and that means that I need varied heights in these circles for what else I'm going to use to put in them. And I will probably not make this one a circle at this point in time. I could later down the track, you know, and say 2 days before the competition staging, when I know exactly what I'm going to do with the design, I might decide either that I don't need that one, or that I need it, and I needed it to, you know, it might just twist around this branch piece here, or it might come off altogether, or it might have a couple of circles in it. And that's the other thing, you can do a circle, then leave a bit more and do another circle, but we won't do that today. We'll just do these. And so what I'm checking now is that the next circle I do is going to be at least 1.5 hands away from the height of the next one, so that I'm getting that graduating height in the design. You might hear some of the branches doing a bit of cracking. These days I was worried when I first used to do it. I was terribly worried that I was going to break all the branches and it would be no good. But what happens is that, yes, some of them break, but what it gives you is a very rustic feel to what you're doing, and so long as when you go through in your design and you make sure that that's not a point where the judge's eyes are going to be drawn. So if you can see there, that piece is broken. Now it's still green, so as it dries out it'll go a bit browner. When I do the staging, I'll just check to see that the eye isn't going to be drawn to that point, so I might have something in front of it, a leaf or a flower or something in front of it, just to hide it a little bit. So we're leaving that one. Once again, I'm looking at, if I have it horizontal, I've broken that one off. So that one's not going to be used. Adjusting as we go. So I'd like that one because it's going to give me depth, because it's behind this major line of this branch. So I want that quite low down, but not the same level as that one. So I'm going to have to bring it right down to the base. So you can see how that's looking now. You can see that gives you depth because it's facing away as well as being behind the main line. So here we probably want one. We've got it there, so we want something about that level. So I'm very impressed with myself doing it sideways, I have to say. I might try this when I'm doing it all the time. Seems I can actually see what I need to do next rather than looking at it front on always. So there we have our next one. That one I think is too dry, so that's gone. As I said, I probably would trim some as I was going through. And we might do, so we've look at the heights. I'd like something a little bit higher than this one, but not as high as that one on this side. I don't know, I don't really want to bring them. See what happens, my arm's in the way. I'll do it this way. See what happens when if I brought all of those together, then it pulls your eye across that side of the design. And because this is going to sit with the other one, which we'll grab so you can see what I'm talking about. So if that's the upright and this one comes across in front of it, and we can weave them into one another, I don't want the judge's eye to be drawn away from the design. So if I did another circle there, it would just, by gravity and the way I make the circle, it would pull you away, and it leaves too much of a gap here. So always when you're preparing combined structures like this, just keep checking to see that it's going to be where you want it to be. As you said, completely twisting them up. So what I might do with this is I'm going to leave those two. I'm going to do one here, and I'm going to leave those other ones until I put the design together. And then if I want to, I can make another ring there. So that's the technique. And as I said in the intro, it's the same technique. If you're using straight pieces of willow rather than the branches, you can make wreath shapes and then they'll dry out and you've got them to use for all sorts of things. They're just useful to have because you can combine them. You know, they don't have to be used for on the door at Christmas. You can combine them and use them as bases for all sorts of things in designs. It just becomes a structure that you use. So there we have that branch ready for me to incorporate into the design as I start to plan it. I'll leave that out now for another couple of days to dry, and then I'll determine I won't need these because they're too fine. So I'll take them off now. But I'll check it in a day or so and I'll put the two branches together and see that it's still looking, as it dries, it's still looking the way I want it to look. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is a very, very simple technique for any sort of wood, anything that's got bark on it that can be mottled. If you don't want that mottled look, if you'd like a smoother, more uniform colour, simple, easy solution, she said, is to sand it down. So this might be a little bit difficult to see, but we'll see how we go. So you can see that this part of the branch is it's got a little bit of lichen on it, and sometimes I like to use that in designs and sometimes it's not appropriate for the design. And so what I've done here, so you can see the difference here to here, is I've just lightly sanded it. So simple as running sandpaper along. You can use a sandpaper block and that one is a fine one. So always look for fine rather than coarse, because coarse is just going to give you scratches along it. And these are 240 grit and 180 grit. I would start with the 180 and just see how you go. So that's all I've done. It's as simple as just rubbing it. And you could rub it back as far as you like. You know, with some timber, you can rub it back to the raw wood and you get that very pale, almost pine look to it. Some timbers will give you a variation of the way it looks. Now that's the bark's coming off that, so I might actually peel that away. It gives me a better surface to work with. So, like with anything when you're sanding, do a test patch first, and it's probably good to do a test patch to get an idea of the pressure that you need to use and which grit you need to use in the sandpaper itself. So you can see that feels nice. So we have now this different style of colouring through it as opposed to the darker one there. And a lot of the times I would prefer this lighter. There's still variation in the colour. It's still interesting. It's not smooth and doesn't look like it's been manufactured, but it's less dark and dominant. The problem with the darker colours is that they become dominant and so they take away from the rest of your design. So think about that as a way of experimenting with the plant material you've got, making it look a little bit different and putting a little bit more effort into putting a design together than you might otherwise have thought about. So there's two easy techniques to do with Willow. I shall get back and continue preparing for my competition. I hope that they inspire you to use Willow in all sorts of different ways in your designs. But for now, I'm Kim Bailey and this is Floral Art Online.